What's going on, everybody? Always looking for ways to educate everybody, all my friends. So I'm always looking for that next video. So I came across something, an interesting topic the other day on the computer, and I figured I'd talk about it. So it was more or less they were talking about how to buy a house without going house poor. So what does that exactly mean? Well, if you go to your bank and you go through the pre-approval process, they're going to give you a number on what you can spend. So let's say that pre-approval came back at $270,000, just to say. Do I advise spending the $270,000 or going up to that max? It all depends on your financial situation. Now, for most people, I would probably say no, just so you're not living so tight, so to speak. Now, there's a lot of things you have to, consider when buying a home. You know, especially with things that you don't necessarily think about, like PMI. So if you're not putting down 20% on your home, you're going to get hit with PMI. What's PMI? It's private mortgage insurance. If you don't put at least 20% down, you can expect to pay up anywhere up to a couple $100s, and sometimes that puts people over the top, where they're living tight. A few other things that we don't consider when we buy a home is that your utilities are going to go up, your gas, your electric. If you're used to paying utilities on an apartment, obviously when you buy a home, you got more space. Your utilities are going to go up a little bit more. So stuff like, depends on the community you live in. You could be paying for trash, where in other communities you don't pay for trash. So that's always something to consider. Water and sewer are things that you don't think about when you're evaluating what your payments are going to be. So consider that also, because that can get a little bit pricey. Just trying to think here. But yeah, just, do your own calculations to figure it out. I mean, you have to sit down. You have to see what your debt is, so to speak. What you're paying out. You have to take into consideration also your spending habits, as far as like going out to eat, clothes shopping, your daily lattes, movies. You also don't want to stop living. I mean, you don't want to work so hard just for that home and not enjoy life. You still want to be able to go on vacations with your family. So these are all things that we need to consider, and very importantly, you need to come up with a budget. You have to sit down with your significant other. You have to come up with a budget. It's very important when you're buying a home, just because of these things that we don't always think about when we're buying a home. You want to be prepared. That's the most important thing. And, you just got to keep those things in mind. What are some things that I recommend, so to speak? If you're used to living in the Somerset, Swansea, and other surrounding communities from Fall River, you may want to keep in mind to extend your search maybe to the Fall River market. I know a lot of people have negative things to say about Fall River, but I love Fall River. Born and raised, it's a great community. I love it. I may be biased, but I can't say enough about it. It's been good to me, and there's a lot of Fall River areas that are very, very good, and the school systems are decent. So I mean, just broaden your horizon. I mean, just think about Fall River. If you can't afford the other communities, always consider ones next door, because that could be, you can get more home, so to speak, just because it's in Fall River. You may want to also consider a condo or a townhouse at first, because you can get a very nice condo and townhouse. Yes, you also have to consider the HOA fees and stuff like that, but there are some beautiful condos out there for a relatively cheaper prices than single family homes. So at first, first time home buyers, you might want to consider that. And then maybe 5 years down the line, you can always rent it out and then buy your home. And I think pays for itself when you rent it out to someone. You may want to consider a fixer-upper, especially if you're handy or your significant other is handy, because you can qualify for an FHA 203K loan, which is a loan that gives you money to fix up that home. And with the FHA 203K loan, I believe if you put down 10%, I want to say you can have an interest. I'm sorry, you can have. I'm trying to remember now. I believe you can have a credit score as low as 500 if you put down 10%. Don't hold me to that. I am not the mortgage guy. I'm just your realtor, but I believe that is very close to 500. Now, what credit scores do FHA loans look for? Typically, in a regular FHA, I believe it's somewhere around 600. I heard as low as 580. I heard it's 640, but I'm saying 600. That's a question that you might want to ask a lender, your bank, or whatever the case may be. I have a lender I work with. If you guys have any questions, I can always pass along that information for you. The guy's great. If you feel more comfortable going to your bank, great. Yeah, but that's about it for today. Just trying to bring a little information to the public, to my friends, and you know where to reach me if you have any questions. Have a great day. God bless.